Itai, that was so inspiring as always. And I'm going to take a couple of ideas that you put out there, hopefully further the concept of unlearning, courage, and the question of individuality. To me, I see this fundamental shift that has been very evident about, especially in the US, the shift from being responsible for my health to actively being responsible for your neighbor's health. And it's been perhaps the biggest concept that we have had struggles with, this idea that I'm not just responsible for my health, but I am responsible for your health and you are responsible for mine. What does that do when we start thinking about our buildings in our cities? The other moment, evolving moment in some ways, is this realization of interdependence. This idea that human-centered and planet-centered thinking is very interdependent. We have craved for outside spaces. We have embraced our balconies, those small thresholds that give me a window of connection to the outside. And this was a comment that isn't really mine. It was made in one of my talks, which I thought was so powerful, that is there a shift? Will 2020 be the year where we shift from human-centered to living-centered? Will we finally have an awareness of not being the center of the universe, but a part of an ecosystem that is shifting and that we are forced to shift in so many ways? Will the sustainability conversation not happen in this complete silo, but really be part of my daily conversation? And this concept of interdependence and that shift from individualism is a key component of how we envision our cities. The other idea that has really been going almost in a loop through my head is on how we are moving in a world that is hybrid, and we have to embrace it. We have to understand that every footprint has a cloud print. There is a presence that I have right now where I'm living in an Ann Arbor, but talking to Rome all over the place. What does it mean to really understand what's the synthetic of the hybrid? What do I have to embrace and what do I have to be aware of or conscious of? Because this is new, this idea of footprints and cloud prints, and this easy escape that we've had into a cloud print. What does it really mean for my embodied existence? And finally, which is I think a theme for everyone who's on this talk, is understanding consciousness, this interdependence between body and brain, and being really hyper conscious of this period that we are in. So we don't necessarily go back because that would be a shame, but we don't react in the way we go forward. And when we think about the city, for me, it's always been fascinating to think about the mind as a city. The mind is a city that we must understand and navigate. Human behavior during this pandemic has been a huge mystery. But if we understand it, perhaps we can navigate a better society. So it's about the mind in the city, but also the city in the mind that we need to truly understand and navigate. And because I'm a pracademic, because I sit in practice as a director of research for HKS, which is an architectural firm, and also teach as an academic at the University of Michigan, a lot of this for us has culminated in what would that look like? What would an attempt at that look like if we were to make it a reality? And a large team of us worked on a concept, almost a conceptual framework of sorts, where you think about an agile design, which is not fragile because it's agile, which builds community. And that means you have to be net positive for not just environmental health, but social health. That means that health and education actually are interdependent and work together. It means we have intergenerational dependence. One of the things we've learned recently is this idea of a strengths-based perspective. What if we assume that everybody in society and in communities has something to offer that is their strength, and that we really are able to draw from each other? And what does it mean instead of thinking about buildings as firm capital assets? Rather, they are flexible and mobile frameworks that allow us to shift. And in that vision of a community block, an agile design is something that builds actively community, and the community creates resilience. And in that way of thinking, perhaps when we close off, we always understand that we're closing temporarily to protect and provide better for other areas that can open, that you're breathing and flexing and moving, because cities are living, breathing organisms. And we know that the biggest risk we've had today is that of breath. It's how we breathe as individuals, how our buildings breathe, and how our cities breathe. And that, I think, is an ongoing investigation for us that can we really envision a community-based ecosystem that, because it supports life continuity, supports business continuity, and that they are not in conflict with each other. So it's a concept, it's a way of thinking, but I think it's really comes back to thinking in a very interdependent ecosystem. And is a prompt for conversation. Thank you.